really think I need eyeliner. Hello everybody, today I'm going to be recommending you some engrossing, binge-worthy books. Books you will not want to put down. If there's one thing that I can do during this dark time, it is recommend you a book to read. So it strikes me that in this time of uncertainty and stress, we're all looking for some distraction, something fun to occupy our minds. And there is nothing more fun and more engrossing than an exciting book. A book that you put it down and all you want to do is go back to it. A book where you wake up in the morning and you think, yes, now I can keep reading. So I have quite a little, like a range of books here, from nonfiction to fiction to graphic novel, just because these books were books I couldn't put down. These were books that I read really quickly, in like some of them in a day, some of them, most of them in like 2 or 3 days, just because I couldn't put them down. I just had to keep reading. So maybe let's do it in categories. This one piece of hair is just not cooperating. I just started to edit the video and I realized I never mentioned why my hand was totally green. I was painting. I was painting something and I can't get it off. So that's it. I'm not rotting. Let's start with fiction. So I'm gonna start it off with, maybe not. Okay, I'm gonna start it off with the last book that I read where I had this experience of not wanting to put the book down, and that is Albatross by Terry Fallis. This is a book I have not heard anyone talking about, and that breaks my heart because it was so much fun. This has absolutely become a new favorite book of mine. It is about a kid in high school who gets a new gym teacher, and the gym teacher she's reading a scientific journal, and there's this wacky theory in there that if you measure somebody's body, like their proportions, how long their arms are, how tall they are, etc., all of these things, you will be put on a scale, and if you get over 90% on a certain percentage thing, you would be really good at a sport, even though you've never tried that sport. Your body is just perfect for the sport. So the gym teacher thinks it would be fun to try on her students, just as a fun experiment. So she measures a bunch of her students, and our main character turns out to get a really high percentage in golf. Something he doesn't care about. He's never played. His dream is to be a writer. He doesn't care about golf, but his teacher loves golf, and she's like, well, this is a funny coincidence. Let's go try. Let's see if this theory is correct. They go to play golf, and he is incredible. And what happens throughout the book is just this wacky story of this guy who skyrockets to the height of fame in golf. He gets sponsorships, he gets, interviews, and gets to play in major tournaments. And it's about that, but it's also about, like, should you lead your life in a way that follows success or that follows passion? And it is such a funny, fun, exhilarating story. There were 2 or 3 moments where I felt like legit emotional and wanted to cry. And at the end, I just left it like feeling completely exhausted, but happy and proud and just like loving the characters. The one thing I've heard when I've tried to recommend this book to people is like, it sounds good, but I really don't care about golf. Do not let that stop you, because the main character also doesn't care about golf. He hates golf. And so it's a really funny element to the book and adds a lot of hilarity. So actually I think that not liking golf is a benefit to you if you're gonna read it. The next fiction book I'm gonna do is Ready Player One. This is it's like a modern classic at this point, isn't it? This is, and if you haven't seen the big movie either, this is about a world where we have something called the Oasis. And the Oasis is basically like the internet if the internet became almost a physical space. People work in the Oasis, they live in the Oasis, they hang out there, they like meet people from all over the world by putting on a headset and gloves, and you kind of like enter this virtual reality. And what happens is that the creator of the Oasis dies, and he was obviously the most rich man on earth because he created this huge virtual reality that everyone uses, and he dies, and he leaves a kind of a treasure trail to find these Easter eggs and challenges, video game-esque challenges, and if you finish them and you're the first one to do it, you will win his fortune. So everyone on Earth goes crazy trying to be the person to find it. So our main character is Wade. He's a teenager who just happens to find the first clue first. And it's the story of him trying to complete it. It's the story of friendship in a time of isolation and loneliness when people don't really interact with people anymore. They interact with just avatars of people. But also, the kind of big catalyst is that a company hires a bunch of people to try and solve the puzzle, because why wouldn't companies try and solve the puzzle too? And so it's kind of like Wade versus this massive corporation. It is so exciting. It is so much fun. It is just like a fever dream of 80s nostalgia and references. If you like the 80s at all, things like John Hughes movies, Steven Spielberg, video games from the 80s, etc., you will enjoy the references. Some people think that the references are a bit too much, but it's just the way that Ernest Cline talks about them is just so much fun. You can tell he loves that stuff so much. So this was a riot, and I remember not getting so into a world in a long time. And I read this back in like 2012, and I still recommend this all of the time because it was so much fun. And I also know like a lot of people that aren't really readers, so people that don't read that often, love Ready Player One. So next up, okay, I'm gonna do this one. It's kind of a cheesy recommendation, but I just think that the moment is right for The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So we've all read it, right? Like everyone has read The Hunger Games. And it is kind of young adult, middle grade fiction, but it is so engrossing. Like if you haven't reread The Hunger Games in a while, it might be time. I am personally about to dive into a reread of the series and I cannot wait. It is so much fun. It is such a wild ride. It is a very well developed dystopian where you feel like the world is real, and even though of course there is a suspension of disbelief and you wonder how the world got to this point, you still believe it. You're sort of like, wow, this sucks. These people are trapped and they need to be set free. The entire series is a lot of fun, but as a first book in a series with it, like Katniss and like, okay, I was looking at the first paragraph. It is so exciting. Hold on. Let me just, another page to flip. Okay. When I wake up, the other side of the bed is cold. My fingers stretch out, seeking Prim's warmth, but finding only the rough canvas cover of the mattress. She must have had bad dreams and climbed in with our mother. Of course she did. This is the day of the reaping. What? Yeah. Okay, what else do I have here for fiction? Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alira Sands. So this is an interesting one, because usually when you think about like a binge-worthy read, you think about something really action-packed. Like all of these books that I've mentioned so far have quite an adventure vibe to them. This one really isn't an adventure. It's about two teenage boys, Aristotle and Dante, and it's about their friendship. It's about their families, it's about compassion and love and self-love, and it's more of an introspective story than it is like an adventure novel, but it is so beautiful. It is so moving. It is just, it's so it's gorgeous. And if you're looking for a book that will suck you in and it is easy to read and fast to fly through, but is emotional and about characters and people, this is the one to read. It's also, I think, really apt for this time because it's about the importance of friendship and about isolation, and not like self-isolation and social distancing like we're experiencing now, but like loneliness and needing friendship and needing connection, and how much of a difference a connection and a friend can make. Okay, The next two are back to just being adventurous fun. So 172 Hours on the Moon by Johan Harstedt. So this is devastating. Many years ago, I lost the dust jacket. I don't know what happened, but I lost the dust jacket, and it's sad because the cover is really cool. This book is about 3 teenagers who basically like win or are nominated for by their schools, I forget, but they win the opportunity to go to space camp, and they are going to be able to go to the moon. And already that sounds like so much fun. So you have 3 teens who go to space school, but it's not like Ender's Game or something where it's like a league of children all studying and are being astronauts. No, like they only train for like 2 weeks or 2 months or something, and then they just go to the moon they're supposed to go for 172 hours, I guess, and then come back. But it's exciting, right? Like it's exciting to see how they train and get ready and how they become friends. And then they go to the moon, and you're thinking this is going to be a really cool like moon story, and maybe a little, I don't know, something fun will happen. But what happens is it all goes to absolute hell in a handbasket. And there's I don't want to say anything. I don't want to spoil anything, because what was so fun about this book for me, and this was one of the scariest books I have ever read. It is young adult, so I don't know like how it compares to adult horror, because I don't really read much of that genre. But if you're a person like me that doesn't read much horror, and you don't want to like have anything gruesome or anything violent, but you just want to be like freaked out, this book is so scary, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm not going to spoil anything. Just trust me. If you want to be freaked out, check out 172 Hours on the Moon. The other book I picked is With Malice by Eileen Cook. So this one is a lot of fun because, similar to what I'm talking about, it's just an adventure story where the plot is the main focus. Yeah, there's a bit of character development, but really it's just a fun plot. It's about this girl who, with her school, goes on a study abroad trip to Italy. But it all goes awry. The way that this book is framed is that the main character wakes up in a hospital bed. Like, that's what happens right off the bat. She doesn't remember the last 6 weeks of her life. When this trip to Italy happened, she is completely like broken and bruised and stitched up, and she's being told that she went to Italy, she was in a massive accident, and that she killed someone. And she's like, what are you talking about? I don't remember going to Italy. I don't remember being in an accident, and I definitely didn't kill anyone. But all of this evidence is mounting against her, and she's trying to piece together what happened to her. So it's stressful because you don't really trust the narrator, she doesn't really trust herself, and you're trying to figure out what the hell happened in Italy. I found it to be a really fun ride. It's quite a simple, straightforward story. It kind of feels, like watching an action movie, where you're sort of like, yeah, I sort of get what's gonna happen, and nothing is that surprising, but it's still super fun to watch explosions happen on screen. That kind of vibe. I had a lot of fun with this. I also just love books set in Italy, and this is a beautiful cover, if that's enough. Okay, so those were my fiction picks. I also now want to talk about 2 nonfiction picks, because maybe you just want to plow through some educational content that's also fun. Edutainment, as they say. So the first one I picked is So You've Been Publicly Shamed. This is one of my absolute favorite books. I adore this book. If it was up to me, this would be mandatory reading for all of humans. I think that this book teaches you how to be a better person for a multitude of reasons, but basically this is about public shaming. It's about this practice that has been going on for the last few years, since the kind of advent, but mainly just massive use of social media. And it tracks stories of people who, say, did a really racist tweet or did something stupid on social media that then completely destroys their lives because they get canceled, right? And so it is so fascinating. I think it's a well-balanced look at it. He never says, like, canceling is a disaster, we shouldn't do it, and blah, blah, blah. But he also doesn't say, like, canceling is great, we should do it. He's kind of looking at it and being like, what can we learn from what we're doing? And is there ways we could improve the way that we treat each other online? Again, I think that this is really apt for the moment we're in, because we're spending so much time on the internet and we are connecting through the internet, and I'm so grateful for the internet. You wouldn't be watching this video if it wasn't for a social media, if it wasn't for the internet. But at the same time, when we're using these tools and communicating in these ways, it's important that we think about how we're doing that. So I think A, it does that really well, but B, it's also so entertaining. Jon Ronson is hilarious. He kind of takes on this like documentarian in the field, out and about kind of approach where he goes to meet different people and interview different people and try and go undercover to certain situations. He has a really fun, on the go writing style, but he's also very thoughtful. So it's entertaining, it's really interesting, and in the end, for me, it taught me so much about compassion and empathy as a person who creates online and wishes that people were kinder online. It was the kind of book where I was like, please, everyone read this. And like for me, the kind of thing that I always point out to people about this book, kind of my my tagline for it or whatever, is that he talks about right at the beginning how we used to do public shamings. Like, public shamings aren't new. We used to do things like 200 years ago or whatever, where if someone did something wrong, one of the punishments we would do for that crime would be to, for example, make them stand in a public square with a sign on them, or make them, what's the name of those things where people are like the stocks, and people like shame you publicly. But we stopped doing that because it was found to be too cruel. It's psychologically very cruel. But suddenly we're doing it again online. And how is it that we're doing that? And what is the effects to the people that have that done to them, etc.? It is so fascinating. The other nonfiction one I wanted to recommend is Tiny Beautiful Things, Advice on Love and Life from Someone Who's Been There, from Cheryl Strayed. So this is so good. Oh, this book is so good. I think more people need to read this book. It is so, so profoundly excellent. Again, it's about empathy and compassion, I guess. That is a theme that I love reading about. So if you have any books that you suggest to me or to other people about connection and empathy and compassion, definitely leave them in the comments. But this, Cheryl Strayed used to run a advice column called Dear Sugar. It was like an Aunt Agony thing, right? A Dear Sugar, I'm sad. My life is falling apart. What do you suggest? And then she gives advice. And this is a compilation of some of the best and most interesting, most powerful, most touching letters. And the reason that this book is great is twofold. Fold number one is that reading people's stories is so powerful. It can be funny, but mainly it's just beautiful. Like, you're reading about all of these different people with all of these different stories, this pain, so much pain, and it connects you to people. It shows you that you're not alone. You're not the only one who is scared right now. You're not the only one who has this specific problem, and maybe their problems are really different to yours, but you see how complex people are, and the way that people, like, her writing is beautiful, but their writing is beautiful. The way that they share their stories and are vulnerable with her. It made me start a journal, which I haven't done as much of, but after I finished reading this book, I did some. I started this journal where I would write letters to her, and I was like, Dear Sugar, because I was so inspired by the way that they wrote. But the second fold for why this book is so beautiful is her responses. Wow. She is so kind. She is so generous, and she listens to each writer so deeply. Well, the thing about Cheryl Strayed is that she has led a pretty crazy life. She wrote Wild, that book that is a movie with Reese Witherspoon where she travels or walks the Pacific, what's that trail called? The PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail. She has led this crazy life, and so she has no judgment when she reads other people's woes, their stories. You can tell her anything and she will not judge you. She will just listen and love you. And that is what makes her answers so powerful. But not only that, she has beautiful writing. Like, the way that she formulates her responses are so good, but also you learn a lot about her through her responses. She'll be like, this reminds me of the time that I did this, or this reminds me of a friend I had who did this. So you learn a lot about her and her experiences. And a little bit of a brag here, I got to meet her, and I'm not bringing this up to brag, I'm bringing this up to like confirm that she is a wonderful person in real life. And so I think I knew that was going to happen because I read this book before I had met her, and I just assumed she was going to be wonderful, but I was so glad that she was. She is as wonderful as she is in her responses. I guess a third reason why I think that this book is perfect for this kind of moment is because it's so easy to read. Because it is these letters. It's someone writing a letter to her, which at most will be like 2 or 3 pages, but usually is like a page long. And then her response, which is maybe 2 to 3 pages long, maybe sometimes 4 or 5 pages. So it is very quick to read through the stories and read through her advice, etc. And that makes it feel like you're going through it really quickly and encourages you to pick it up more, because you're sort of like, okay, I'll just read one letter. I'll just read one more. I love this book. I want more people to read it. It is so, so wonderful. All right, my final category is graphic novels, because this is the perfect moment. If you have never read a graphic novel, please, right now, please. So there are so many that I want to recommend. They are so perfect for being really immersive, but also being very quick to read, because they really are kind of a combination of the two forms that we're so used to, books and movies. You have the beautiful visuals of the illustrations that push the story along, but then you have quite a long time to spend with these characters, and you learn so much from their dialogue. Graphic novels definitely more than novels, make me speak out loud, like have out loud reactions. I will shout and I'll be like, no! Or I'll be so excited because I can see the characters' reactions and stuff. So the first one is one that I read this year, and it's Bastard by Max de Radiguet, I think is how you pronounce the end there. This was so good. It was so action-packed. It was so exciting. It is a beautiful illustration style, and it's about this mom and this kid who have committed a crime, but they've been part of a really big crime situation. 52 simultaneous robberies in the same city happened at the same time, so they're on the run and they're trying to not get caught, basically. You learn about their history a little bit, why they're involved in crime. It is so touching. It is so beautiful, but it's also very exciting because they just committed this big robbery, they have all this money, and they're on the run. The kid is so sweet, the mom is so interesting, the character development is great. It is a very compelling story, and I read it in like one sitting. It was wonderful. Another one I have to recommend is In Real Life by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang. I just lent this book to a friend because it's so good. This is about a character who is very invested in an online game, kind of like World of Warcraft style. She's very into this game, but she kind of uses it as an escapism of her real life. She really doesn't like herself in real life, and so she uses this game to have an avatar that she likes and to make friends that she likes that she isn't able to have in real life. And so that's kind of what the book is about at the beginning, and it's really exciting because she's going on these adventures in the game, and the illustration is really good because it shows like her in-game versus in real life. But then it becomes a lot more important, I guess. She finds out that characters in the game, however, that she's been interacting with are actually workers in terrible working conditions in Asia. And this completely kind of changes her perspective on what is going on in this game, how sinister it might be, and what is important in life, which is helping other people. And it's a beautiful story. It is so exciting. The illustration style is gorgeous. Jen Wang is so good. And Cory Doctorow writes a really exciting story. And this one really had me gasping every time I would flip the page and I'd just be like, oh my god, it was so exciting. So these are my recommendations for books you won't be able to put down. I really hope that you pick one up. I will link down below to where you can find them at a link that, especially if you're in the States, will really help out independent bookshops during this crazy time. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to everyone who is staying home as much as possible. Thank you to everyone who's making extra content online to keep us all entertained. Thank God for art. And thank you so much to our essential workers, people who are working at grocery stores. I'm so sure that you're having such a difficult time, and I'm very grateful to you, and of course to our healthcare workers who are helping everyone out. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me a recommendation for a book I won't be able to put down in the comments, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!